The following thematic unit entitled, Funding and Fundraising, Fundraising and Grant Writing with emphasis on planning and submission of funding proposals, refers to the financial instruments and procedures for securing access to finance for businesses and cultural and creative actors. Emphasis is placed on the operation and the difficulties faced by small and medium-sized enterprises in the cultural sector in corresponding financing, as well as the conditions for access to financial sources. This section covers the following subjects: introduction and presentation of the concepts funding, grant writing, fundraising, conditions for financing and raising funds, current situation in EU countries for SMEs funding, conditions for creating a favorable financing environment, with a focus on the cultural and creative industries, raising funds, preparing a grant request, grant writing, submission of EU funding proposals. With the completion of this module, the participants will be able to have a documented picture and to critically manage in multiple fields the mechanisms and conditions for the successful access of the companies of the cultural and creative sector to financial sources, with emphasis on the SMEs. At the same time, the participant will enhance his knowledge with more specialized topics regarding the process that should be followed by a cultural sector body for a successful funding. Introduction. The following manual seeks to present the framework and tools for financing and raising capital for small and medium enterprises, focusing on companies operating in the cultural and creative sectors. This manual focuses on describing and analyzing the structure of the operation and the conditions of the funding sources in the distinct fields of funding and grants. At the same time, it presents the tools that a company professional should use to formulate and have the management, administrative and business capacity, which is considered as a sufficient and necessary condition for any form of financing and raising funds. It is noted that small and medium enterprises and professionals do not have access to the full range of financial products, so it is selected in this manual to present and analyze the primary criteria a small and medium enterprise should fulfill and serve, focusing on culture and creativity sector. Finally, it should underline that the financing of actions through national resources and co-financed EU programs and initiatives is characterized as a dynamic process, which depends on the national priorities and policies of each member state. Eventually means that for each programming period, current period 2021/2027, the proposed financial instruments to small and medium enterprises are reviewed, updated and, in many cases, replaced or abolished previous ones. Chapter 1. Forms of financing and fundraising. Individuals and legal persons engaged in a professional or social activity have the right under the EU and national regulatory framework to seek funding and raise two types of capital: open funds for free use and management according to the financial needs of the organization. Limited funds or special purpose funds are intended for specific projects or actions. Definitions. What does grant mean? A grant is a financial donation made to support an individual or legal entity, project or program. A grant is essentially a donation of money given to an entity to achieve a specific purpose or goal. What does it mean? Submission. A grant writing proposal. It is defined as preparing an application to receive a grant for a project or organization. The grant does not need to be returned. Due to grants being often awarded for specific projects, the received funds must be used precisely as the financier dictates. Fundraising. Fundraising is defined as a process for seeking financial support. The fundraising process is essentially a specified type of fundraising. Raising funds is an important way for most non-profits to generate revenue for their organization. Funding in the form of grants is given free of charge and is non-refundable. These grants can be provided to individuals and legal entities regardless of whether for-profit or non-profit entities. Such grants are usually national programs or projects co-financed, funded by international organizations, European Union, International Bank, etc. This kind of grants cover specific purposes, follow a transparent system of administration and management, which is mandatory for the final beneficiaries who have the obligation of accountability, in terms of project implementation, financial management, etc. Financing. Any form of funding of either in the form of bank lending, in the form of guarantees or the state of loans, are also addressed to the aforementioned economic entities, on the condition of a refund, usually interest-bearing. The financial institution determines the interest. Sponsorships. Sponsorships in the form of money are usually provided by individuals or legal persons and organizations, In terms of donation, recipients of subsidies are non-profit organizations, public sector social work agencies, academic institutions, religious organizations, etc. Financing and small and medium enterprises. Current situation in EU countries' cultural and creative sector. Small and medium enterprises and the self-employed in the EU play a central role in the European economy. However, they faced a weakness, especially for the cultural and creative sector, in accessing finance. EU and member states' governments consider the financial support of small and medium-sized enterprises as a strategic priority. They design and implement several co-financed projects and initiatives to strengthen and support them with various forms of funding. In addition, creative companies are agents of innovation. Another critical factor in financing the companies mentioned above is the timing in which they need to have access to funds, startup, during business activity, etc. The majority of SMEs underline the need for financing at the startup stage. Especially for the cultural and creative sector, it is observed that one of the main problems they face, regardless of their legal form, is their access to bank lending. One of the main reasons for the company's inability to access the financial sector is that banks and their executives usually cannot assess non-tangible assets such as intellectual property and creation, innovation, etc. As a result, the financial value of the cultural and creative SMEs is not recognized and valued as a whole, while at the same time, financial institutions consider the issuance of a loan to them as a high economic and business risk. This current table depicts the results of a survey conducted at the European level among small and medium-sized enterprises in the cultural and creative sectors. The survey reflects, as a result, by the interviewed entrepreneurs and representatives themselves, the main problems of small and medium-sized enterprises in the cultural and creative sector concerning their access to finance. The research confirms the weakness of the respected enterprises and the difficulties they face in accessing financial resources. It is pointed out that the cultural and creative industries are classified into two main categories: A2 entities that have a purely business orientation, B2 entities that are primarily assisted financially by sponsorships, non-profit organizations. Conditions for creating a favorable financing environment with a focus on the cultural and creative industries. The administrative and management adequacy of an organization. Occasionally the business model and the economic model are confused, resulting in identification. As mentioned in the module Business Models in the Cultural and Creative Industries, it should be noted that the financial model of an organization's revenue is one of the critical elements that make up the business model, which guides the organization to achieve the intended economic result, the creation and promotion of the offered value, the mission fulfillment. Each sector of economic activity selects a separate revenue model serving the basic business principle, ensuring the financial viability and sustainability of the business. Regardless of this option, an organization that directly or indirectly carries out any form of economic activity and pursuing access to funding and grants on good conditions must follow and implement a system of administrative and managerial capacity which is generally described as follows. 1. The organization, regardless of its legal form, it is necessary to provide the articles of association of its establishment and operation, and will be reflected, the administration structure of the organization, the purpose of its establishment and operation, its equity capital and financing sources. The organization must state and commit its management to its vision and mission. 2. Organization's administrative and financial capacity. 2.1 The organization should follow a system of administrative and management procedures that allow it to exercise good administration and to manage with due accountability and transparency any funding grant regardless of the source. In addition, the development and implementation of an integrated system of administration and management enhance the organization's capacity against financial institutions, national and international organizations in accessing funding and grants. Regarding the financial organization's capacity, it is preferable to apply an integrated accounting system to record its annual balance sheet and the movements of its accounts in the most credibly way. 2.1 Certification of the organization's financial and administrative capacity system. Optional. Suppose the organization wishes and has the appropriate resources, administrative staff, available operating costs, a total turnover. In that case, it is helpful to certify the financial and administrative capacity with the international standard ISO 9001, 2015, regardless of financial size and number of employees. The defined conformities of the standard are enabled to every company to follow and implement them. The organization, through the model, ensures a degree of management and administrative capacity and refer it to EU co-financed projects. It should be noted that access to EU co-financed programs in some countries, e.g. Greece, and in many cases requires the Greek managing authorities to the final beneficiaries to have certified management and administrative competence. 3. Preparation of a business plan. As already mentioned, the inability of several small businesses in the field of culture and creation to have access to any financing in the financial sector struggle to follow particular prerequisites and procedures which include the preparation and submission of a business plan. What is a business plan? The business plan refers to each company regardless of its size and legal form. It allows capturing the capabilities of the company concerning the economic environment. Through the business plan, the company will be able to plan a business action and, at the same time, to document its financial health and sustainability. The business plan is the operational and business guide for each company at the design stage of its launch and operation. Through this plan, the potential financiers of the company, banks, potential investors, large sponsors at the national European level, etc., know and evaluate the potentiality of the company, its available assets, tangible and intangible assets, its goals, etc. The business plan serves the company and 3 sub-objectives: the pursuit of raising funds, bank lending, prospective investors, sponsors, guiding the company and identifying business and financial problems, monitoring the company and its evaluation. 3.2 The structure of a business plan. A business plan includes the following essential parts: presentation of the company profile, its specific characteristics, the specialization and professional experience of the founders and the staff, if any, the dynamics and the innovative features that possibly provide the company with a competitive added value. The vision and mission of the company are presented and analyzed, as well as the value offered. Then a detailed description of the product services produced is made. Their competitive dynamics concerning the market is documented, and the fulfillment of the needs and requirements of the customers' end users. Existing market situation and analysis, nationally, internationally, if necessary. The following chapter attempts a market analysis with a focus on the field of business activity. The existing competition is analyzed, and market analysis is carried out to highlight the company's business space potentiality and describe the customer's profile. Therefore, an analysis of the company's strengths and weaknesses is carried out. This process is called SWOT analysis, from the initials of the words: strength strong, wealth weak, opportunities threats. SWOT analysis analyzes the strengths and weaknesses of the company, the opportunities found in the market and the corresponding threats. 3.2. Sales and marketing plan goals. The company develops a comprehensive marketing and sales promotion plan based on its strategic and goals analysis during this chapter. Through the marketing plan, the company describes procedures and tools that will be used for the development of the program, intending to promote it to the broader environment of its activities, the communication approach of the public and customers, the notification of the products produced and services. It will then plan and calculate sales over a 3-5 year horizon. 3.2. Analysis of financial data. Economic plan. This chapter, which is the company's financial and business identity, analyzes the financial plan's fundamental economic assumptions. The financial analysis is an essential part of the business plan. It is financially reflected in its initial investment and future projections to document the viability and performance of this business activity. It generally includes the following elements: cost of a business startup, working capital, operating costs, financial forecasts, break-even calculation, net present value, financial and operational company's capacity, conclusions, assumptions, evaluation of the business venture. Structural elements of the fundraising process. As mentioned in the first chapter, capital raising is linked to any business of any size and legal form and is directly linked to the strategic plan, the business plan, the budget drafting. It is valid for the organization from the establishment and operation, its operational capacity and the implementation of specific projects, to focus and process the 3 aforementioned structural elements with due care. A strategic plan. The strategic plan promotes a framework of actions that is integrated in the organizational knowledge and operational understanding of the organization and the human resources that make it up. At the same time, it promotes a framework for business management and employees to evaluate situations with a common strategy, discuss alternative proposals through a common language, and decide on an action plan based on the result of shared values and mutual understanding. Thus, misunderstandings and weaknesses enhance its introversion are avoided. The strategic plan allows and dramatically helps the management of the organization to release all the dynamics and energy it has. The strategic plan helps and strengthens the organization to develop, organize and better understand the environment in which it operates, of its strengths and weaknesses. B. Business plan. Regardless of the existence of a business plan, the organization should follow a structured operational plan. The lack of a structural plan is a great danger in SMEs, particularly in the cultural and creative sectors. The entrepreneur usually follows the plan, or a non-profit organization that operates intuitively causes unpredictable consequences. The business plan assists the company in its daily operation, its projection plans, and gives it the advantage to move based on its financial and business capacity, the availability of resources, to be informed about the needs of the market and its customers with its offered value. The business plan forms the productive dynamics of the company concerning its business model, its final product, product promotion, quality control. See budgeting. Regardless of is about working capital or the funding of a specific project, the elaboration and preparation of the budget is a critical element for implementing an organization's business and operational strategy. The budget generally represents the organization's basic financial strategy and guide it to find the resources needed to operate or implement a project. The drafting of a budget in small enterprises, mainly focusing on the cultural and creative sector, is affected by the uncertainty and possible setbacks in implementing their strategy due to inherent weaknesses in the environment they interact with. Therefore, a budget should be short-term and flexible in any corrective action as long as the core financial line of the business is not overturned. In budget drafting, it is necessary to use documented and objective financial data, which should be confirmed. Market consideration. For example, prices of raw materials and services. Apply the rules of labor legality, for example, staff salaries. Consider the current honest practices, customers, end users, and value for money. The current table depicts the fundraising options, type of requested funding sources, based on the classification of companies in terms of their activities. Preparing a grant writing request. Structure, procedures. Based on the above, for the requested company to choose the financing body, bank sponsors, it must prepare the relevant request for financing. This request must have a specific structure and content to be documented: the validity of the request, the reliability of the business, the viability of the business venture. In many cases, the funding agencies, for example financial institutions, have their funding application forms with this structure, especially for the projects co-funded from national and EU resources and programs. The applicants for grants, natural, legal entities, are obliged under the exclusion clause to follow the procedures applied by each relevant invitation in defined application forms. In recent years, requests have been submitted electronically. Reference to next chapter. Request and application structure. It should be emphasized in advance that the existence of a business plan significantly strengthens the request and its evaluation. Brief presentation of the company, profile, activities, experience, specialization, recent business activities which the company has successfully implemented, presentation of its size and infrastructure, company structure, management structure, number of employees, venues, special equipment, its position in the market, list of its customers, with the consent of the customers, financial data, balance sheets of the last 3 financial years, if any, recent annual turnover, ongoing projects and turnover, if any, previous borrowing, if any, description of the request. A project financing. A comprehensive description of the project content is required. Documentation of any innovative characteristic, the competitive position, product, service, to the market, the operational adequacy, experience and specialization of the company for the successful implementation of the project, its influence on the public society, task timetable. A1 budget analysis. The financial request should be analyzed in a realistic, balanced budget, which will include cost analysis, identification of other resources for revenue forecasts, expected project revenues, the amount of funding requested. B. Working capital. Justification of the request concerning B. 1. The execution of a project, purchase of raw materials, etc. B. 2. The company's expansion, new premises, recruitment of new staff, equipment, etc. C. Establishment and operation capital of a business, submitting a business plan. Organization and management of a sponsorship program. Sponsorships. Sponsorships in the form of money are usually provided by individuals or legal persons and organizations in the sense of donation. Recipients of the sponsorships are usually non-profit organizations, public sector social work agencies, academic institutions, religious organizations, etc. Cultural and creative industries are a field of interest for potential sponsors, whether they belong to the public or private sector. At the same time, actions are connected to the general public, and the impact and value offered in many cases are substantial. Many candidate sponsors, mainly public or private organizations, have set up comprehensive sponsorship programs in their corporate social responsibility. Some of them set the terms and conditions of sponsorship from the beginning. Usually, the sponsorship programs of the organizations mentioned above are covered by an annual sponsorship budget. Usually, according to their policy and strategy, several organizations organize and in many cases, announce at the beginning of each year to the candidates their annual sponsorship program. The candidate body's sponsorship application should be a complete proposal to apply the structure mentioned in the previous chapter. In addition, it is helpful for the applicant to present to the sponsor a program of compensatory benefits against the sponsorship. The program usually refers to the sponsor's promotion in the publicity program implemented by the subsidized candidate. In some cases, the sponsors themselves within the framework of their sponsorship programs form the framework of the promotion and publicity program. Finally, the sponsorship agreement is accompanied by a cooperation agreement between the sponsor and the subsidizor, which describes the mutual obligations of the two parties. Presentation of sponsorship steps. Step 1. A. Preparation of sponsorship request. B. Compensatory benefits program. Step 2. List of candidate sponsors. Profiles and sponsoring criteria of candidate sponsors. Selection of candidate sponsors. Step 3. Submit a request. Presentation of a grant program. Step 4. Approval of sponsorship. The signed of cooperation agreement. EU funding framework. EU programs for funding SMEs cultural and creative sector programs. The EU provides grants and funding for various projects and programs in different productive sectors, including the cultural and creative industries. The critical principle governing such funding is transparency and accountability. 75% of the EU budget is managed in cooperation with the national and regional authorities of the 27 member states, which are responsible through their member states' governments for carrying out monitoring, inspections and local audits. As mentioned in a previous chapter, small and medium-sized enterprises are a strategic priority for the EU and its member states. Eventually, this means that European SMEs have access to EU funding. There are numerous financial products provided by local financial institutions such as banks, venture capitalists, local financial institutions through EU programs. SMEs can request funding under certain conditions. The following graph shows the path of financing of small and medium enterprises from the EU budget. EU funding programs for the cultural and creative industries. Creative Europe Programme. Creative Europe 2021 to 2027. The program covers all sectors of cultural creation and has a budget of €2.44 billion. The objectives of the program are to the safeguard, development and promotion of European culture, linguistic diversity and heritage, increasing competitiveness and economic potential of the cultural and creative sector and in particular audiovisual sector, emphasizes aid, collaboration between artists and creators at the European level, strengthening the competitiveness, innovation, and sustainability of the audiovisual sector in Europe, promoting cooperation and innovation in cooperating sectors in the field of culture and creativity. Submission of a proposal for joining an EU program. Every individual or legal person who meets the eligibility requirements. Each EU public call for proposal details the terms and conditions of participation and funding. Procedures for submission and implementation of an EU co-financed project. Step 1. Information call for proposals. The terms and conditions of participation in each program. The deadline for submitting the application and the available budget are carefully read. The final evaluation of the eligibility of the organization and its participation in the program is made. Step 2. Plan and design of the proposal and the corresponding technical description. Drafting of the budget. Step 3. To submit a proposal, the organization must register on the EU platform participant register and receive the relevant confirmation and electronic identity, login password. Step 4. Each candidate body activates its electronic ID and enters the EU platform, then starts the field of search in EU funding and tenders portal. The programs that interest the candidate body are displayed, and the proposal submission process follows. Step 5. Start of proposal submission. Then the necessary fields of the electronic application are filled in, where in general the following are: Part A. Organization's details, other contact details, partners' details, if provided, proposal description. Part B. Completion of annexes, detailed budget, partner CVs, legal form of partners, etc. Part C. Some programs provide for the completion of an additional field with technical descriptions, maturity studies, etc. Overview of EU funding programs 2021 to 2027. The new multi-annual financial framework and recovery plan were adopted in December 2020. While not all the provisions for the sectorial programs have been finally approved, the next programming period provides the widest ever opportunities for funding in the coming 7 years at both national and EU level. Asylum and Migration Fund. Through the new programming period, the fund will, inter alia, fund actions between member states to support training and education actions, people and their families to integrate into their community. Creative Europe. The program presented in Chapter 7.2. Support and fund new business models of culture and creativity in the fields of digital economy, cross-border actions, and artistic creation in general. Digital Europe. The program focuses on the development and applications of the digital economy in a wider range of economic and social activities in the EU. It supports ISMEs and their digital transformation reinforced network of European digital innovation hubs. Greek letter Epsilon, Greek letter Epsilon, Greek letter Alpha and Norway Grants. E program refers to the participation and financial assistance of Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway in reducing economic and social inequalities in the 15 member states of Central, Southern Europe and the Baltic. Among other, the program will fund actions of public and private sectors bodies, in research, education and training, social inclusion, culture, etc. Erasmus+. The program will continue in the new programming period to cover the financing of actions for schools, vocational training, adult education, youth and sports. The program is also aimed at very small organizations and startups to financially support their activities. European Social Fund Plus. It is EU's main tool for promoting and enhancing employment and social inclusion. It covers 11 specific objectives, such as employment, labor market skills, childcare, training, equal opportunities, etc. European Urban Initiative. The program supports and promotes urban innovative actions, including Urban Agenda Initiative. Risen Europe is the world's largest program that promotes and supports research and innovation. The program is composed of 3 pillars, with the second supporting, among other, actions in the fields of research and innovation on culture and creativity. Interreg European Territorial Cooperation. The program supports the following types of actions: cross-border cooperation between neighboring land and maritime borders regions, international cooperation, interregional cooperation, outmost regions cooperation.